I'm going to date myself a little bit because when I was in college, I had a moment of insanity. I decided to take a class in statistics. And my professor, as a way of making a point, started off the class by saying, I can prove to you that one of the 10 male students in this class has a 100% chance of being the general manager of the New York Yankees by the end of the year. And he took all these numbers about Billy Martin getting fired every day and rehired and used these numbers to show that, yes, in fact, if the statistics and the numbers that he looked at held true, that there was a good chance that one of the guys in my class would go on to manage the New York Yankees, which, by the way, none of them did. But my point in making that is these lists are all different because we're looking at different factors and different elements. And so it's hard to say or predict what rankings matter and what don't. And I would argue there is one consistent theme throughout all of them, and that is that taxes matter. The tax climate is something that is very important. You only need to look at the national level, the medical device manufacturing tax that's going in January, and the flight of companies and medical device manufacturing out of both New York and the rest of the country. And that's just a fact. I mean, there's any number of companies that have stated that they're moving their operations to Taiwan or Singapore because of the implementation of this tax. So they really, really do matter. They make a big difference. And in New York, when you look at there's the income tax, but if you look at the state and local tax, there are multiple layers of taxes on things like, and they don't always get characterized as taxes, but there's business improvement districts and library districts and canal districts, and we do surcharges on energy, by the way, which results in us having some of the highest electric costs in the country. 27% of every electric bill are state and local added taxes. We tax healthcare. I know there's a stated purpose to reduce the cost of healthcare and make it more affordable, but we have state policies that tax healthcare, which makes absolutely no sense. So one of the takeaways here is if we're going to improve our rankings in any way, we have to take a hard look at the multiple layers of taxes. And instead of just agreeing to contain them, we need to start trying to repeal, reduce, let them phase out, get rid of some of these taxes so that we can improve our business climate and we can reap the benefits of a strong job growth. Related to that, I think the other point is that state policy really matters. If you look at some of the states that are doing well, I don't think North Dakota's a wasteland. I'm not going to get myself in trouble there. But North Dakota, Pennsylvania, these are states that have high job growth, and they have state policies that have permitted exploration permitted shale development, something that we're sitting on in New York. And this is something that's very real and tangible that we can point to where you could see some significant benefits at the state level if there was a shift in state policy or even forward motion. And the last point that I would make that there's a common theme here is that predictability is extremely important. And this is an area where I think New York is actually doing better than what some of these rankings sort of reflect. We've had now 2 years of really no new added taxes, very low growth budgets, a very functional legislature. I know it's sort of like saying everyone who shows up to the game gets a trophy. We're not aiming for mediocrity here, but the fact that there's been a stability in government and we're not looking at billions of dollars in new taxes being put on the table every legislative session is something that businesses do pay attention to. And I think having a comfort that, and the messaging that's coming from state government at this point, that we're open for business, it's not, I don't poo-poo that. I think it's something that is very significant because businesses want to feel like the state is not just looking to them to continue to sustain spending without taking a hard look at what the impact is. So my perception is those are the takeaways. I think just to go back to my point, which is if you look at one part of one ranking, you can make yourself look good or bad. If you look at private sector employment, I think everyone agrees that's pretty important. We were 10th among all states in private sector employment from 2010 to 2011 in terms of growth. We added a lot of jobs, more than 40 other states in that time frame. 70% of those jobs are low-paying jobs. So depending on how you look at it, we either did well or we did poorly. I mean, that is private sector job growth, very important. We want to continue to improve that, but if the job growth is in areas where people are accepting jobs that are low paying, or they're in industries that are not, high multiplier like manufacturing, then we're kind of missing the boat, and we're not going to be at the top of any success story list. So that's sort of my takeaway. I know these guys were complaining that I get to go first, so I tried not to steal
Did we complain?
any of your talking points. So.